Welcome to Veterans News and Special Reports podcast. Thank you for stopping by. I hope you enjoy what we're going to show you. Okay, this is Professor Rick Ballou, PhD in Surviving the VA. Here at Veterans News and Special Reports, we're going to give you a no-holds-barred reports on the VA system and how it works. Welcome to the people that corrupt the VA systems. This episode is the Veterans Doctors and Staff That Work From Home podcast, episode 1. The dangers the American veterans face are fraud, records sold to drug dealers, medical backlogs, and medical doctors falsifying records to deny benefits. I hope you understand this is a critical problem. It was discovered in 2024, the United States of America, 94% of the millions of government workers across America were working from home instead of the office. Why did this happen? The year was 2020. The country shut down for COVID-19. 94% of the government workers never came back to work for the past 5 years. In this podcast, episode 1, we will bring you the dangers the VA doctors, workers, working from home as almost also includes other government agencies that work from home and the dangers the America will face. When you go to the VA hospital, you're thinking you're talking to a doctor with 20 years experience. Sometimes it's a student doctor. Sometimes it's a student nurse. I've even talked to other doctors at the hospital that told me they were nurse practitioners, to come find out they were just doctor assistants. Is this malfeasance? Is it malpractice? That is something the lawyers will not even talk about. And I've been through them all. So let's find out who these doctors are. Do any of these doctors walking around in the white smocks, do they have an office at Tampa VA Hospital? No. They have offices at Tampa General or other small hospitals in the area, and that is the function of the way it does. They come to the VA hospital once or twice a month to meet with me as a patient. This same doctor only sees you once a year physically. The rest of the year, he's either talking on a computer screen, which his camera doesn't work, that you won't know he's at Tampa General or he's at home. And this is criminal. The 6th of December of this year, I met with the driver's ed to talk about hand controls and different things I needed for my new vehicle. It was done over a computer screen, which his screen didn't work to let me know that he was working from home. He could see me, but I couldn't see him as I went out to my van to operate the hand controls and the different apparatus. Is this very legal or is this malpractice? The first photo on the right is Tampa General Hospital, Florida. Initially opened in 1927, it formed the name Tampa Municipal Hospital. It was a privately owned. This hospital was also non-profit. It was taken over by the Veterans Administration in 1994. The Veterans Administration is giving Tampa General $239 million of taxpayers' money to take over hospitals that would give them trouble and, closing the market. When the United States of America is using the government funds to take over hospitals and facilities as nonprofit. This is totally illegal. Tampa General was trying to acquire the Oak Hill Hospital in Hernando County and use their facilities because it was modernized and really a nice hospital. And they were charging high prices. So what they did was they bought other hospitals here in Hernando County in the beautiful town of Spring Hill, where they could run Oak Hill out of business. This first hospital we'll look at is Tampa General Spring Hill. Used to be called Bay Pines. The diagram you see below talks about the bid of $290 million for this little bitty hospital, and later was adjusted to $294. This is an important note. Using taxpayer money for buying and selling hospitals could be illegal. Our next hospital acquired by Tampa General was in Brooksville. Unlike its other predecessor, Bay Pines, now is called Spring Hill. Spring Hill was about 1 or 2 acres of property. This one is about 20 acres. It could be worth billions. But as you notice here, same price, $290 million was adjusted to $294. The third one we're looking at is Tampa General Crystal River in Citrus County. I'm not really sure which hospital they're trying to overtake, or did they take this one. But also, the bid shows on the internet at $290 million, but later given to $294. Now, this is a strange time, and I don't know too much about this hospital. As your reporter has been saying, Tampa General is trying to run other hospitals out of business by using VA doctors, VA staff workers. How they're working from home, I believe this is also being done to other patients. They can switch calls from veterans to non-veteran patients and other counties, other cities, localities, looking up their records and falsifying records. As you can see, the trick here, all hospitals are purchased for $294 million. No matter if their equipment is magnificent, they've got MRI machines or whatever, the VA is willing to take the extra step and bringing in equipment they can get from our taxpayers. Talking to staff members at these hospitals that were taken over here in Hernando County and other places, finding out they were not offered bonuses or raises, even though they've been working at the hospital for 10 years for the new company to come in. What they did do was bring in VA staff members to bring in the nurses and offered them $20,000 bonuses to sign up to come to all the way to Spring Hill. Now, where these people came from, we do not know. We do not know their backgrounds or who they are. The problem is when we get a phone call from a pharmacist, we get a phone call from a psychologist or any doctor, we don't know if they're calling from the VA in Tampa, Florida, the VA in Spring Hill, Brooksville, Crystal River. We don't know where they're from. You have approximately 7 VA hospitals in the Tampa area. Is this an overkill? Yeah. This podcast is broadcasting from our palatial studios in beautiful downtown Spring Hill, Florida. next door to the Heineken Bottling Company, the makers of Heine wines in 4 flavors. They grown in the rolling hills of southern Bonghai, China. If you need copies of this documentation that we give you, please contact me at baloo1947@aol.com. I have PDF files and would love to talk to you if you're interested in coming on the show and talk to us about your experiences with the VA. Thank you, and stand by. Welcome to Veterans News and Special Reports. This podcast is about doctors and staff members working from home instead of at the VA hospital. As you had seen before in this podcast, that 94% of all federal employees are working from home. This will talk to you about the dangers of these people working from home. Now, I have an exhibit. Okay, February 11th, 2015, by the Tampa Tribune staff newspaper in Tampa, Florida. The Tampa Tribune writes, Tampa, Florida, for a few years, crooks filing fraudulent tax returns have seemingly ready source of personal information, VA patient records at the James A. Haley Veterans Hospital, Tampa, Florida. At least 3 people in different points of access were stealing records of veterans being treated at the James A. Haley, stealing the documents to thieves and selling them to at $50 a pop, using them to file tax returns, to get bonus returns from the federal government. According to the federal court's records, this is a HIPAA violation at the max. At the Tampa VA, at least 3 people with different points of access were stealing records, working around 25 other workers at the VA hospital. But working from home, no one can catch these workers using the VA records as collateral for drugs or extra money. This goes to the IRS and the FBI. Doctors call from other states or countries. Same thing for social workers. Same thing for other VA employees. Where does this pesky little telemarketer get their information from the Social Security working from home? That is a big question. This is a HIPAA violation and a violation of all laws known to the United States of America. What is a HIPAA law? In 1833, medical practices was private. Health practices also had its privacy. The practice was maintained security, confidentiality, patients, papers, and records. It was involved both in conversation, description of health of the care provider, the security of medical records. That means, where was it filed? It was normally filed in the doctor's office. This is way before the Veterans Administration. Today we use computers, disk drives, and then we save it all in a depository for the Veterans Administration for your records. But I found out working with the VA, and you'll see it in this podcast today, that at the VA, no veterans have rights. They will tell the American government where to go and what to do with it. Most of the time, stick it. Or I even have documentation where the Veterans Administration told them to F off. And that is, who did they tell? Congress. They told them to F off in 2013. You'll see the documentation in a later series. Tune in. Welcome back to Veterans News and Special Reports. Now, we're going to talk about your lawyer. A lot of times veterans will go into the VA and go through the regional office to try to get benefits. They get a royal screw job. Now, the problem is you have no rights when you're trying to work with these DRO workers. Now, that stands for the guy that's going to find out whether you get your benefits for the accident you had in the military. This guy's not a doctor. He's not a lawyer. He is a guy that worked at McDonald's, like the vice president did. And then he was given a job at the regional office as a facilitator to decide whether you get benefits or not. After you go there, you go to the VBA federal judge, which is a federal judge at the Veterans Administration, supposedly in Washington, D.C. We don't know where. Tune in. This represents the Veterans Regional Office somewhere in America. Now, if you notice, there's a sign there. It says, "Do not enter without an appointment." Now, for the last 50 years, if I needed to go see somebody at the VA Regional Office or go look at my files, I had ability to walk in. You get through security and you go in to see your records. Now, as you can see, do you have an appointment to go into any government office building in America as an American, also as a veteran? My vote says those yahoos are now working from home, downloading veteran service records, which is a HIPAA violation. Personal information to work on with them at the regional office at home. It's easy to take a copy of the veteran's personal information, slip it into a printer, and sell it to a drug dealer. John comes home. His retirement check starts to come in as his 20 years in the service of his country's and devotion to the flag he loves. Now he must come home to begin a new war with the veterans, hospitals, and the VA regional office. This is a battle he is not ready for. There's no cannons roaring, no smoke from battle. None of his men are laying there dying and wounded to their screams. He is injured in the service of his country. He must now fight the flag that he loves and a government he was sworn to protect. John's service to his country means nothing to the Veterans Administration. His doctors say that his injury was not from where he was fighting in battle. They don't know where because they don't see paperwork. They're not allowed to see paperwork. If they say, yes, he was injured in Iraq or Afghanistan, and this is what happens, they lose their license. VA doctors can lose their license to help a veteran. This happened to me twice. The first time when I was talking to my psychologist about PTSD, they rejected it the doctor fought. The doctor agreed with me that I was injured in the service of my country, but he got fired. Then the dermatologist, after seeing her for 2 years, she was transferred to Gainesville, Florida, 70 miles away from the VA hospital in Tampa. This was because they didn't want her to claim that I was having a problem with Agent Orange. John must first take a step working with the VA doctors and getting nowhere. His back has now put him in a wheelchair. Next step, he has to do a case file with the regional office. He has to make his first choice of the Veterans Rep, the Veterans of Foreign War, which is the VFW, DAV, or the American Legion. He will try to get his paperwork from the VA into the regional office for these yahoos to read them. John will fight the VA. He'll find out about his hearings will be 3 years down the road because of backlogs. The case in there 3 times to be rejected over 3 years each by the DRO worker of the VA, working from home, it looks like. John's pension from the Army does not cover wheelchairs, accessible vans, adopting his house to wheelchair use. He must now get a lawyer and go to the National VA area called the VBA. Now, that is the federal judge. Okay, thank you for coming today. We're going to talk, the next series coming up will be about what John has to go through, and myself as I went through my experience with the Veterans Administration for my disability rating as now 100%. But John, he is retired. He is now 20% for wheelchair and back injuries, and he's got to fight for his life. All right, thank you for coming. I will start episode 2 shortly. Thank you. Thanks for coming. Wait for the next episode, and don't forget to pick up your bottle of Heine wine the next time you're at the store. Thank you. Tune in for the next episode of You as a Veteran Have No Rights. Judges Working from Home, podcast episode 2. Also, look at the corrupt system that John had to, and myself had to go through to get our disability.